Life is not a spectator sport. Life is in the doing. You don't lose weight by reading diet books. Does anybody know what has consistently been the most fast-growing segment of the mass market book world for the last 25 years? Do you know? Self-help. Self-help, personal improvement. Stores cannot keep these books on the shelves. They're so popular. And you know why? Because they're addictive. They're like potato chips. You can't just have one. You read one of these books and you think, wow, it's so exciting. So you go out and you buy another, and another, and another. And pretty soon you're looking for the one. You're thinking the next one is going to be the book that is going to change everything for me. But you see, that's missing the point. Okay, how many of you have ever read those books? Everybody. Okay then. And they all admit it. Okay, so you know how these books work. Usually at the end of each chapter or each section, there's an action list. There's a set of exercises that you're supposed to do in order to reinforce what you just read. Do you do those exercises?
Yes. Sometimes.
No. Neither does anybody else. And why? Because you're so into the book. You want to read more, you want to find out what's happening next. So you look at the book and you say, I'll just read the next chapter. So you read the next chapter and you get to the end of it and there's another set of exercises, but of course you can't do them because you didn't do the first set, so it doesn't make sense. So now you say, I know what I'll do. I'll read the whole book and then I'll go back and I'll do all the exercises. That's sounding familiar, guilty as charged, right? Okay, so you read the book. You get to the end and you close it and you say, wow, that was brilliant. This really will change my life. I'm just going to put this book right here on my desk where I can see it. And I will think about it for a couple of days and then I will go back to the beginning of the book and I will do all the exercises. So several weeks later, maybe a couple of months later, somebody asks you if you've read this particular book. And you say, yeah, I did read it, but it didn't do anything for me. You see, the book's not supposed to do it. You're supposed to do it. You're supposed to read the book, take the knowledge, and then take action. Because life is not a spectator sport. Life is in the doing. When I was a young woman, 20 years old, back in Scotland, just finished university and starting my first part of my career, life was pretty good, but it wasn't very exciting. My friends and I used to sit around and say, I wish something would happen. Well, for me, one day, something did. I went to a dance in Glasgow. Actually, it wasn't a formal dance. It was a big public dance hall. Some folks in the room tonight will know it. It was the Majestic. You know the Majestic? Okay. And it was that time and place equivalent of clubbing, just a bigger place. And I used to go there with a friend, but she couldn't make it this night, so I gathered all my courage and I went to the dancing on my own. And that night, I met George. Now, if George walked in that door now, I would know him. And he would not know me, because we never saw each other after that night. But that night, the conversation I had with George had a profound influence on the direction of my life. George was a carpenter, and he had just come back from a one-year contract working in Canada, and he could not stop talking about it. He was so thrilled with Canada. Now understand, this was in the days when you used to dance face to face with people. You could actually have a conversation as you danced. So George and I danced together for the whole evening, and George talked about Canada. Oh, Helen, you would love it. You should go. It's a beautiful country. It's so big and grand, and it's just, there's so many people there from all over the world, and it's opportunity, and it doesn't rain all the time. You should go. Well, I I went home that night and I went to bed and I couldn't sleep. I was so excited about all this. So the next day, I went to my friend who wasn't able to make it to the dance. I said, Elsa, we have to go to Canada. She said, we do? I said, yes, we do. And I told her about George, and I told her everything that George told me, and she got all excited as well. And we decided, okay, we're going. Now, we didn't say we're going to emigrate. We said, we'll go to Canada for a year, and it'll be fabulous. So that very week, we went to Canada House. We put in our applications, and we got all the information that we needed. It was a done deal. And that's when it got interesting. Because we started then to tell people about our plans, and their actions were interesting. People said things like, Canada? What are you going there for? Is that not awful far away? Yes, it's 3,000 miles away. Really? See, I didn't know you had family in Canada. No, we don't have family in Canada. Oh, but you must know people there. Well, no, but we're hoping we'll meet people when we get there. Well, but you must have jobs to go to. No, but we'll get jobs when we get there. Oh my goodness, I can't imagine doing a thing like that. Oh, I don't think that's a good idea. Oh my goodness, what a chance you're taking. 2 young women on your own. Does your mother know about this? This is a Scottish thing. Does your mother know? Well, no, I was keeping it as a surprise for her. Of course my mother knew. But these people thought that we were nuts. Now, by the time we came, it was November, and we sailed. Wow. 2 days out into the North Atlantic in November, and I was starting to think we were nuts too. It was a rough crossing. However, we arrived safely, we landed, and we fell in love with Canada. Actually, we both fell in love, and we both met our future husbands within 2 months of arriving here, which explains why we didn't go home at the end of the year, and we're both still here, all these many years later. Now, I've been home to Scotland a number of times in the interim, and this is not so true now, but in those early days when I went back, I would sometimes run into those folks that had been so negative about our plans. And you know what they said? You're so lucky. You're so lucky to be staying in Canada. I think it's great over there. Oh, I've heard so much. You're so, wish I could live in Canada. Some people have all the luck. This just drove me crazy because luck had nothing to do with it. They could have come to Canada. They could have gone to America or Australia or any place else that I could go. But they didn't. And here's an interesting thing. In those early years when I went home, I could walk down a particular street in my hometown, I could knock on all the doors, and I would know exactly which families lived there because they were still the same place as they'd been when we went to school together. They'd never moved out of their own street. Now, there's nothing intrinsically wrong with that. A person doesn't have to emigrate in order to be happy. But these people were not happy. They were miserable. They were sitting there on their seats on the sidelines of the game complaining about their lot. But that's not life. Life is not a spectator sport. Life is in the doing. Life is in the doing. Now, when I did this, that night that I met George, I didn't know that things were going to change so dramatically for me as they did. But they did because I went with the flow. I took action. Now these people are miserable and they are not doing anything to change their lot because these people are what I call life's spectators. Life spectators. They're sitting on their seats at the sideline complaining. And that doesn't work. It doesn't work for any of us. You need to get a mitt and get in the game because life is not a spectator sport. Question to you. What is your thing that's in your mind? What is there in your life that you've been thinking about doing for years? What's that one thing that gets you so fired up just by thinking about it? But unfortunately, that's where it stops. Just thinking. So maybe it's to do with your career. Maybe it's a change of career. Maybe it's going for the big promotion. Or if you have your own business, maybe it's going after the big client that will raise your business to the next level or even the next one after that. Or maybe it's personal. Maybe it's climbing a mountain or deep sea diving off a coral reef. Whatever that thing is for you, what's stopping you? What's stopping you? Now don't tell me, I don't have the time, I don't have the money, I'm too old, I'm too young. Don't say any of those things, because here's the truth. As soon as you decide that not only do you want this thing, but you're going after it, you commit yourself to it and you start taking actions, small actions towards that goal, you will be amazed at how things suddenly become possible. So get a mitt and get in the game, because nothing will happen while you're sitting on the bleachers. All those years ago back in Glasgow, did George change my life? No, he didn't. I'll be forever grateful to George for giving me the information that I needed and inspiring me, but he didn't change my life. I changed my life because I took action. And that is the only thing in life that changes anything or that makes anything happen, is when you take action. The great German philosopher Johann Goethe has said something very wise, and I'm sure you've all heard this because it's been widely quoted. But I would like you to listen to this again tonight with different ears and in the light of what I've been talking to you about for the last few minutes. What Goethe said was, whatever you can do or dream you can, begin it. Boldness has genius, power and magic in it. Begin it now. Now what is he saying? Goethe is saying much more beautifully and poetically and eloquently than I ever could exactly what I've been talking to you about for the last 10 minutes. Life really is not a spectator sport. Life really is in the doing. So do it. Listen to Goethe, if not to me. Do it. Do it. Go out there and do it now.